Another day, with another motivational, beautiful story. The early bird catches the worm. The sun was just beginning to rise, painting the sky with a soft, golden hue as the world slowly awoke from its slumber. In a quiet meadow, a small robin named Ruby flitted from tree to tree, her keen eyes scanning the ground below. She had a reputation among the birds in the forest. She was always the first to rise and the first to find her breakfast. Today would be no different. Ruby's mother had taught her that old saying, "The early bird catches the worm," and she lived by it. Her siblings, still tucked away in their cozy nests, often teased her for waking up so early. But Ruby knew the value of her mother's wisdom. She had seen too many mornings where she was the only one gliding through the air while her siblings missed out on the plump, juicy worms that lay beneath the dew-covered earth. This morning, Ruby was determined to find the fattest worm of all. Her small heart beat with excitement as she flew low, her wings slicing through the crisp morning air. Below, the grass sparkled with droplets of dew, and Ruby could just make out the slight shifting in the soil that meant worms were waking up too. Patience, she reminded herself as she hovered above a patch of ground that looked promising. Her sharp eyes focused on the subtle movement of the earth, and with a quick, precise movement, she dove down, her beak piercing the soil. She tugged gently, and within seconds, she pulled up a long, fat worm. "Success!" Ruby chirped triumphantly, holding her prize proudly. She glanced around to see if any other birds had risen, but the forest was still silent except for the gentle rustling of the trees. This was her favorite time of day, when the world was still calm, and she could relish the peacefulness that came with being the first to rise. As she enjoyed her meal, Ruby heard the familiar flutter of wings. Her brother, Rufus, was just waking up, his feathers ruffled from sleep. He perched on a nearby branch, blinking groggily at the morning light. "Ruby," he yawned, "why do you always wake up so early? The sun's barely up." Ruby smiled, her beak still holding on to the remnants of her worm. "That's exactly why, Rufus. The best worms are out before everyone else is awake." Rufus looked down at the ground, his stomach growling. He hadn't eaten yet, and seeing Ruby's catch made him realize how hungry he was. "I guess, but I'd rather sleep in a bit longer," he muttered as he began searching the ground below. But as he scanned the area, he realized something. There were no worms in sight. The ground, which was teeming with life just a little while ago, seemed still and lifeless now. Rufus sighed, fluttering his wings in frustration. "How do you always find them, Ruby?" "I can't see a single worm." Ruby looked at him sympathetically. "That's because the worms have already gone back into the ground. They come out early in the morning, but if you wait too long, they disappear. That's why I'm always up before the sun." Rufus groaned. He knew she was right, but the idea of waking up at the crack of dawn didn't appeal to him. "I guess you're just lucky." "It's not luck, Rufus. It's being prepared. You have to work for what you want, and sometimes that means waking up before everyone else." As the morning went on, other birds began to stir, but many, like Rufus, struggled to find any food. Ruby, on the other hand, had filled her belly and found a cozy spot in a tree to rest. She watched the other birds, knowing that while they might find a few scraps here and there, they would never have the same success she did. "The early bird catches the worm," she whispered to herself with a contented smile, her eyes slowly closing as she settled in for a nap. And as the sun climbed higher into the sky, Ruby knew that tomorrow, just like today, she would be the first to rise, ready to seize the day and all the opportunities it held.